So how many of you wake up at 3 in the morning and can't go back to sleep? We're going to talk about that. Some of the reasons why that's happening. It's very specific. If that's you, you need to listen. So let's talk about that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this is a common complaint of all of my clients that I have. They'll come in and they'll say, my gosh, I come home from work, I'm so exhausted, I lay down on the couch, I can barely get up, and then around 9 o'clock at night I start to get a little bit more of a second wind. I can get some work done on my computer, or I can clean the house, but then I start to get tired again and I try and go to bed, and then I go to sleep, and then all of a sudden at 3 o'clock in the morning I'm wide awake, and now I can't get back to sleep. And we discuss how this happens, and it's a cortisol response actually. It's the adrenal glands that are causing that problem. What happens is, we have adrenal glands that sit on our kidney, and the cortisol is being put out from that as an anti-inflammatory, which we need, right?
And cortisol, you hear it all over. Cortisol is a stress hormone, or cortisol makes me gain weight. Well, cortisol is just associated with, it's a normal hormone in the body that should peak in the morning and then drop off at night. It's a healthy, good thing to have.
Exactly.
Unless there's too much or too little, right?
Right. And in people that are stressed out all the time, instead of peaking in the morning and dropping off at night like they're supposed to, they barely can get out of bed in the morning sometimes, are really tired, creep out of bed. So the cortisol levels just kind of come up a little bit during the day. And then around 4 o'clock, they get a little dip, and so they get tired. They go get their sugar, their coffee, their cigarette, their whatever. And then they get a little bit of a kick. They manage to get home, get to sleep, and then they have a spike of that cortisol when there hasn't been any for a while. They get a spike of that cortisol around 3 o'clock in the morning. And what happens is that cortisol will make you put out insulin. And the insulin response is such that it takes the sugar from in the bloodstream and puts it into the cells. So
okay,
now,
so backing up. So cortisol shouldn't normally peak or spike at 3 in the morning.
No.
It's because of the chronic stress and what's happening with our adrenal glands.
Right.
So it spikes, and that then spikes insulin.
Yes.
Insulin's what takes, when you eat a normal meal, your blood sugar goes up, insulin comes, and it puts the sugar into the cells.
Right.
But so when cortisol spikes at 3 in the morning, you're also releasing insulin.
And
which
when you
then
release
drops
that,
your blood sugar, right?
and then what happens to your brain at night when you
freaks
when
out.
you don't have any glucose is how our brain works. So all of a sudden your brain, even though you're asleep, recognizes that it doesn't have enough fuel. It doesn't have the sugar coming in anymore. And it's like, so then you wake up, and now you can't get back to sleep.
And is it that, like, does your brain literally, is it like a panic almost wake up? Like it's because it doesn't have the blood sugar, you wake up like that?
Right. So we all know when we've got that hypoglycemic response during the day, some people they get real crabby and irritable and all that. That's kind of what your brain is doing, right? So it's irritated and irritable, and it's waking you up. And so the trick for that is to kind of put like a piece of cheese and a almond or something with some protein and some carbs at your bedside, maybe a little shake that has some of that in it. Take a little bit of that, and try and stabilize your blood sugar out a little bit, and usually you can get right back to sleep.
Versus lying there for an hour or
using
more.
using up more, and then ended up with more adrenal glands problems. And
but even before that, I mean, that's not the real solution is to fix your adrenals and your stress. And,
absolutely.
And
that's the long-term solution. So it takes a while to get that under control. But
that's another video.
Yeah, it's another video. And we've done a lot that. A lot of people have that. You're not alone.
Hopefully that this helps. If that's you waking up 3 a.m., there's things you can do and things to consider.